Maya Torres stood outside the old antique shop that now belonged to her. The morning sun made the dusty windows shine but could not hide how empty the place looked inside. Her grandmother, Alina, had died 3 weeks ago and left Maya everything. The small building sat on the main street of Silver Creek, Nevada, where nothing much ever happened. Maya pushed open the heavy wooden door and stepped inside. The smell of old books and forgotten things filled her nose. Grandmother Alina had collected strange items for over 40 years. The shelves were packed with objects from around the world. Some looked very old, and some looked like they came from places Maya had never heard of. She walked slowly through the narrow aisles. Her grandmother had always been mysterious about where she found these things. Alina would smile and say they found their way to her when the time was right. Maya had thought this was just grandmother talk, but now she wondered if there was more to it. Near the back of the shop, Maya found a small wooden box sitting alone on a table. She had never seen it before. The wood was dark and smooth, with strange symbols carved into the sides. Maya lifted the lid carefully. Inside was a crystal pendant hanging on a silver chain. The pendant was about the size of her palm and seemed to glow with its own light. The moment Maya touched the crystal, something amazing happened. The pendant pulsed with bright blue light that filled the entire shop. The light was warm and felt alive. Somehow Maya could feel energy moving through her fingers and up her arm. It was not scary, but it was definitely not normal. Maya put the pendant around her neck and tucked it under her shirt. The blue light faded, but she could still feel the crystal humming against her skin. She spent the rest of the day looking through her grandmother's things but found nothing else unusual. Just old books, pottery, and jewelry from many different countries. That night Maya decided to sleep in the small apartment above the shop. She had been staying in a motel since the funeral, but now that the shop was hers, she wanted to be close to her grandmother's things. She made a simple dinner and went to bed early. Around midnight, Maya woke to the sound of breaking glass downstairs. She lay still and listened. Heavy footsteps moved across the shop floor. There were at least 3 people down there, and they were looking for something. Maya grabbed her phone, but realized she had no signal. The old building had always had poor reception. Maya crept to the top of the stairs and looked down into the shop. Dark figures moved between the shelves, using small flashlights. They wore black clothes and moved like soldiers. Maya had never seen anyone move so quietly and smoothly. These were not ordinary thieves. Stopped near the table where Maya had found the pendant. The person was tall and thin, with something strange about their outline. Maya squinted in the darkness and saw something impossible. The person had pointed ears that came to sharp tips. This was not human. The crystal pendant under Maya's shirt began to pulse again. The blue light was dim, but it was getting brighter. Maya tried to cover it with her hands, but the light was already shining through her shirt. She heard one of the intruders make a sharp sound and point up toward the stairs. Maya ran back to the bedroom and grabbed her backpack. She threw in some clothes, her phone charger, and the few $100 she had in cash. The pendant was glowing brighter now, and she could hear the intruders running up the stairs. Maya opened the bedroom window and climbed out onto the fire escape. The metal stairs were old and made noise as she climbed down. Maya could hear shouting from inside the building. One voice was definitely not human. It had a musical quality that no human voice could make. She reached the alley behind the shop and ran toward her car. As Maya started the engine, she saw the intruders come out of the shop. They moved fast, and one of them pointed some kind of device at her car. A beam of red light shot out and hit her rear window. The glass turned white and cracked but did not break. Maya stepped on the gas and drove away as fast as she could. She drove through the empty streets of Silver Creek with her heart pounding. The pendant was still glowing under her shirt, and she could feel it getting warmer. Maya had no idea where to go or what was happening, but she knew she could not go back to the shop. Maya drove toward the highway and thought about what she had seen. The figure with pointed ears could not have been human, but what else could it be? Maya had always thought aliens and elves were just stories, but tonight had changed everything. Her grandmother had left her something that others wanted badly enough to break into the shop. The pendant pulsed again, and Maya felt a strange sensation in her mind. It was like someone was trying to speak to her, but not with words. The feeling was gentle, and seemed to be trying to comfort her. Maya did not understand what was happening, but she knew the pendant was more than just jewelry. As she drove through the Nevada desert, Maya remembered things her grandmother had told her. Elena had always said the Torres family was special. She said they had a job to do, but Maya had never understood what that meant. Now, with the crystal pendant warming against her skin, Maya began to think her grandmother had been preparing her for something. Maya drove until she reached the next town and found an all-night diner. She parked under a bright light and went inside. The few other customers were truck drivers, who barely looked up when she entered. Maya ordered coffee and tried to think about what to do next. The pendant had stopped glowing, but Maya could still feel it humming with energy. She touched her phone and was surprised to see she had several missed calls from numbers she did not recognize. Someone was trying very hard to find her. Maya turned off the phone and removed the battery. Maya sat in the diner booth and tried to make sense of what had happened. Her quiet life had suddenly become very dangerous. The intruders had been looking for the pendant, and they would not give up easily. Maya realized she needed help, but did not know who she could trust. The waitress brought more coffee, and Maya thanked her. The normal interaction felt strange. After what she had experienced, Maya looked out the window at her car and made a decision. She would drive to Phoenix, where her cousin Rebecca lived. Rebecca was a nurse and would know what to do. Maya paid for her coffee and walked back to her car. As Maya drove toward Phoenix, she thought about her grandmother. Alina had never married and had no children, except for Maya and Rebecca. The old woman had always been secretive about her past and where she came from. Maya had assumed Alina was just a private person, but now she wondered if there had been bigger reasons for the secrecy. The pendant pulsed gently as Maya drove through the desert night. She was beginning to understand that her grandmother had left her more than just an antique shop. Alina had left her a mystery that others were willing to kill for. Maya gripped the steering wheel tighter and drove faster toward Phoenix. She needed answers, and she needed them soon. Maya arrived in Phoenix as the sun was rising. She had driven all night and was exhausted, but the pendant kept her alert with its gentle pulsing energy. Maya found her cousin Rebecca's apartment building and knocked on the door. Rebecca opened it, wearing her nursing scrubs and looking surprised to see Maya so early. Rebecca Torres was 2 years older than Maya and worked at Phoenix General Hospital. She had always been the practical one in the family, while Maya was more of a dreamer. Rebecca invited Maya inside and made coffee, while Maya tried to explain what had happened at the antique shop. Rebecca listened to the story about the mysterious intruders and the glowing pendant, but Maya could see doubt in her cousin's eyes. Rebecca had always been skeptical about their grandmother's strange stories. When Maya showed her the crystal pendant, Rebecca examined it carefully, but saw only a pretty piece of jewelry. Maya was frustrated that the pendant would not glow for Rebecca. She tried touching it and concentrating, but nothing happened. The crystal remained dark and ordinary looking. Rebecca suggested Maya had been stressed from their grandmother's death and might have imagined some of what she saw before. Maya could argue they heard a strange sound outside. It was a low humming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Both women went to the window and looked up at the sky. What they saw made Rebecca drop her coffee. Couple large silver ships hung in the air above Phoenix. The ships were sleek and curved like nothing humans had ever built. They moved silently through the sky, and more kept appearing. Maya counted at least 20 vessels before she stopped trying. The ships were clearly not from Earth. Rebecca stared at the alien ships with her mouth open. Maya felt the pendant grow warm against her chest. The crystal was reacting to the presence of the ships. Maya pulled the necklace out from under her shirt, and both women watched as it began to glow with blue light. The news on television was showing the same ships appearing over major cities around the world. The reporters were calling it first contact with an alien civilization. Maya and Rebecca watched as the ships began sending down smaller craft. These landed in remote areas away from populated centers. Maya realized the aliens were here for the same reason the intruders had broken into her grandmother's shop. They wanted the pendant. The thought scared her, but also made her feel important. Maya had something that beings from another world considered valuable. Rebecca was no longer skeptical about. Maya's story, the alien ships, were proof that strange things were happening. She helped Maya pack supplies and they prepared to leave the apartment. Rebecca called in sick to work and told Maya they needed to find somewhere safe to hide. As they loaded Rebecca's car, Maya heard vehicles approaching. The sound was different from normal cars and trucks. Maya looked out the window and saw black vehicles with no license plates stopping in front of the apartment building. People in dark uniforms got out and began surrounding the building. Maya grabbed Rebecca and they ran to the back of the apartment. The pendant was glowing brighter now, and Maya could feel it getting hot against her skin. She and Rebecca climbed out a window and dropped into the alley behind the building. They could hear the apartment door being broken down as they ran to Rebecca's car. Becca drove fast through the side streets of Phoenix. Maya watched the mirrors for signs of pursuit. The black vehicles did not follow them, but Maya knew they would not give up easily. The aliens had ways of tracking that humans did not understand. Maya suggested they go to Katie Miller, who lived outside Phoenix. Katie had been Maya's best friend in high school and now ran a garage in the desert. Katie was tough and practical and would not panic when she heard their story. Maya gave Rebecca directions to Katie's place. Miller's garage sat alone on a desert road 20 miles from Phoenix. Katie had bought the old building cheap and turned it into a successful repair shop. She specialized in fixing trucks and motorcycles and had a reputation for being able to fix anything. Katie was working under a truck when Maya and Rebecca arrived. Katie came out from under the truck, wiping her hands on a rag. She was a small woman with short dark hair and grease stains on her clothes. Katie had served in the military before starting her garage and still moved like a soldier. She smiled when she saw Maya, but the smile faded when she saw their worried faces. Maya told Katie about the pendant, the break-in at the antique shop, and the alien ships over Phoenix. Katie listened without interrupting and asked to see the pendant. When Maya pulled it out, the crystal immediately began glowing. Katie stared at the blue light and nodded slowly. Katie said she had seen strange things during her time in the military, things that were classified and that she was not supposed to talk about. Katie had always suspected there was more going on in the world than most people knew. The alien ships confirmed what she had suspected for years. While they were talking, a figure appeared at the garage entrance. The person was tall and moved with inhuman grace. Maya recognized the pointed ears immediately. This was one of the intruders from her grandmother's shop. Maya grabbed Rebecca, and they moved behind Katie, who picked up a large wrench. The figure held up both hands to show they were empty. The person spoke in a musical voice that was definitely not human. The stranger said their name was Lyra Nightwhisper, and that they needed to talk. Maya was surprised that the being spoke perfect English. Lyra explained that she was from a people called the Elves, who had been watching Earth for many years. The Elves had their own space-traveling civilization and were not connected to the aliens, whose ships now filled Earth's skies. Lyra said her people had been looking for the pendant for decades. According to Lyra, the pendant was created by an ancient race called the Architects, who had disappeared long ago. The Architects had left behind powerful technology that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The pendant was a key to accessing that technology. Maya asked why the pendant only worked for her. Lyra explained that the Architects had built genetic locks into their technology. Only certain bloodlines could activate their devices. Maya and Rebecca were descended from humans who had encountered the Architects thousands of years ago. Katie asked about the alien ships over the cities. Lyra said those belonged to the Zephyrians, a warrior race ruled by women. The Zephyrians had learned about the pendant and come to Earth to claim it. They would not hesitate to destroy human civilization to get what they wanted. Lyra said the elves were not friends of humanity, but they preferred to avoid unnecessary destruction. The Zephyrians were more brutal and would kill anyone who got in their way. Lyra suggested they work together to keep the pendant away from the Zephyrians. Maya was not sure she could trust Lyra, but the alien ships made the choice simple. If the Zephyrians were as dangerous as Lyra claimed, then Maya needed all the help she could get. Rebecca agreed that working with Lyra was better than facing the aliens alone. Katie said her garage had supplies and weapons if they needed to defend themselves. She also had vehicles that could travel off-road if they needed to run. Lyra nodded and said they would need to move soon. The Zephyrians were already tracking the pendant's energy signatures. If summoned by her words, several of the silver ships appeared in the sky above the garage. The ships were much larger up close, and Maya could see strange symbols on their hulls. The pendant around her neck began pulsing rapidly and growing very hot. Lyra told them to get ready to run. The Zep would send soldiers to capture Maya and anyone else who might know about the pendant. Katie started her biggest truck, while Rebecca grabbed supplies from the garage. Maya clutched the pendant and wondered what her grandmother had gotten her into. The alien ships began descending toward the garage, and Maya could see smaller craft detaching from the main vessels. Katie shouted for everyone to get in the truck. Lyra jumped into the passenger seat, while Maya and Rebecca climbed into the back. Katie gunned the engine and drove away from the garage as fast as the truck could go. Maya watched through the rear window as alien soldiers landed near Katie's garage. The beings were tall and blue-skinned and moved with deadly purpose. Maya was glad they had listened to Lyra and left when they did. The Zephyrians looked like they would show no mercy to anyone who opposed them. Katie drove the truck across the desert following old mining roads that most people had forgotten. Lyra gave directions that led them away from the main highways, where the Zephyrians might be watching. Maya held the pendant tightly and wondered what other secrets her grandmother had kept from her. Katie drove the truck through the desert for hours, following paths that existed only on old mining maps. Lyra sat in the passenger seat watching the sky for Zephyrian ships. Maya and Rebecca huddled in the back of the truck as the hot desert sun beat down on them. The pendant continued to pulse with blue light, even though Maya kept it hidden under her shirt. They stopped at an abandoned gas station to rest and refuel. Katie had brought extra fuel in metal containers she kept for emergencies. The old building was empty, except for dust and broken glass, but it provided shade from the burning sun. Lyra stood guard while the humans rested. Maya asked Lyra more about the architects and why the pendant was so important. Lyra explained that the architects had been the most advanced race in the galaxy before they disappeared. Their technology could terraform planets, create new life forms, and even manipulate time itself. The pendant was one of many keys they had created, but it was the only one that had survived. According to Lyra, the architects had chosen specific bloodlines from different races to be guardians of their technology. The human bloodline had been chosen because humans showed unusual adaptability and determination. Most other races had lost their connection to architect technology over time, but humans had maintained it. Rebecca asked how their grandmother, Alina, had known about all this. Lyra said Alina Torres had been contacted by a secret organization of humans who had been guarding architect artifacts for centuries. Alina had volunteered to be a guardian when she was young and had spent her whole life protecting the pendant. Maya felt angry that her grandmother had kept such important secrets. Alina could have prepared Maya better for what was coming. Instead, Maya had been thrown into this situation with no warning. Lyra said Alina had probably been trying to protect Maya from a dangerous responsibility. Katie finished refueling the truck and announced they needed to keep moving. She had been monitoring radio frequencies and heard reports of Zephyrian ships searching the desert. The aliens were using advanced scanners to look for the pendant energy signature they needed to find better shelter soon. Lyra suggested they travel to Nevada, where Alina Torres had hidden other architect artifacts. Alina had left clues about the location in her antique shop, but Maya would need to return there to find them. Maya did not want to go back to Silver Creek, where the Zephyrians might be waiting, but Lyra said they had no choice. The pendant was only part of a larger system. Without the other artifacts, they could not access the main architect vault. Maya asked where this vault was located. Lyra said, it was hidden somewhere in the American Southwest, but the exact location was encoded in the artifacts Alina had collected. They climbed back into the truck and Katie started driving toward Nevada. Maya noticed that more alien ships were appearing in the sky. The Zephyrians were bringing in reinforcements from their home fleet. Maya wondered how long it would be before the aliens decided to stop being subtle about their invasions. They drove. Katie received a call on her satellite phone. The caller was Dr. Nina Brooks, a scientist who had worked with Elena Torres for many years. Dr. Brooks said she had been hiding since Elena died, but now needed to meet with Maya. The doctor had information about the pendant that could help them. Dar Brooks arranged to meet them at a truck stop near Las Vegas. She warned that the Zephyrians were capturing anyone with Torres family DNA. They had already taken several of Maya's distant relatives, and were using genetic scanners to find more. Maya realized that Rebecca was also in danger, because she shared the family bloodline. The truck stop. Dr. Brooks turned out to be a middle-aged woman, with gray hair and nervous eyes. She had been a xenorchaeologist, before being recruited into the Secret Guardian organization. Dr. Brooks explained that she had studied architect technology for 20 years, and understood how dangerous it could be. According to Dr. Brooks, the architects had not simply disappeared. They had evolved beyond physical form and existed now as pure energy beings. The architects were still watching the galaxy and testing different races to see who was worthy of inheriting their technology. Humanity had impressed them with their courage and creativity. Dar Brooks showed them photographs of other architect artifacts that Elena Torres had hidden around the Southwest. Each artifact was a piece of a larger puzzle that would reveal the location of the main vault. The vault contained the architect's greatest creation, a terraforming system that could make any planet suitable for human life. Maya asked what the catch was. Dr. Brooks looked uncomfortable and explained that the terraforming system worked by completely changing a planet's ecosystem. Any existing life forms would be destroyed in the process. The architects had intended it as a tool for expanding across empty worlds, but it could also be used as a weapon. Lyra added that this was why the Zephyrians wanted the technology so badly. Their home planet was dying from pollution and war. They needed new worlds to colonize, but did not want to share space with other species. The terraforming system would let them claim any planet they wanted. Dar Brooks gave Maya a map, showing the locations where Elena had hidden the other artifacts. The sites included places like the Grand Canyon, Hoover Dam, and several national parks. Elena had chosen locations that were both secure and symbolically important to human civilization. As they studied the map, Rebecca pointed out that they were being watched. A blue-skinned woman in strange clothing stood near the truck stop entrance. The woman was tall and beautiful, but her eyes were cold as ice. Maya could tell this was one of the Zephyriancillae, cursed in her musical language, and told everyone to get ready to run. The Zephyrian woman was probably Admiral Vera Stormwind, the military leader who commanded the invasion fleet. Stormwind was known for her ruthless tactics, and would not hesitate to kill innocent humans. Scatty started the truck, while Dr. Brooks gathered her papers. Maya felt the pendant growing hot against her chest. The crystal was reacting to the presence of the Zephyrian leader. Admiral Stormwind walked toward their truck with several armed soldiers following her. Lyra drew a weapon that looked like a cross between a gun and a sword. The device hummed with energy and glowed with silver light. Dr. Brooks pulled out what appeared to be a normal pistol, but Maya could see strange modifications on the barrel. Katie gunned the truck engine and prepared to drive away. Moral Stormwind called out in accented English, demanding that Maya surrender the pendant. The Zephyrian leader promised that no humans would be harmed if Maya cooperated. Maya did not believe the promise and told Katie to drive. The truck pulled away. Admiral Stormwind raised her hand and a beam of blue energy shot toward them. The beam hit the truck's rear bumper, and the metal began to glow red-hot. Katie swerved and drove behind a building to break the line of sight. More Zephyrian soldiers appeared around the truck stop and began firing energy weapons. Lyra returned fire through the truck's rear window, while Dr. Brooks shot at soldiers who tried to block their escape. Katie drove the truck across the parking lot and onto the highway. Maya watched through the rear window as Admiral Stormwind stood motionless while chaos erupted around her. The Zephyrian leader was staring directly at Maya with those cold eyes. Maya felt like the alien woman could see right through her. Admiral Stormwind raised her hand again, but the truck was already too far away. Titi drove at high speed toward Nevada. While Lyra checked for pursuit, Dr. Brooks was injured from flying glass but insisted she was fine to continue. Maya held the pendant and wondered how her grandmother had managed to keep it secret for so many years. The pendant pulsed with blue light and Maya felt that strange sensation in her mind again. It was like someone was trying to communicate with her, but the message was not clear. Maya closed her eyes and tried to focus on the feeling. The sensation grew stronger, and she began to understand. The pendant was not just a key, it was also a communicator. The architects were trying to speak to Maya through the crystal. They were pleased that she had found allies and was protecting their technology. But they were also warning her about something. Maya could not quite understand the message, but she knew it was important. Dr. Brooks directed Katie toward a small town in Nevada, where Elena Torres had rented a storage unit. Elena had moved many of her most important artifacts there when she sensed danger approaching. The storage unit contained clues to finding the other pieces of the architect puzzles. They drove. Maya noticed that the alien ships in the sky were changing formation. Instead of searching randomly, they seemed to be converging on specific locations. Maya realized the Zep had figured out where Elena had hidden the artifacts. The race to find them first was about to begin. Katie pushed the truck harder as they entered Nevada. Maya could see Zephyrian ships in the distance heading toward the same area they were. Dr. Brooks checked her weapon and prepared for another fight. Lyra watched the sky with grim determination. Maya touched the pendant and felt its warm pulse against her palm. Her quiet life was over forever. Now she was in a race to save not just her own world, but potentially the entire galaxy. The thought should have terrified her, but instead, Maya felt a strange sense of purpose. Her grandmother, Elena, had trained her for this moment without Maya even knowing it. All those stories about being special and having a job to do had been preparation. Maya was ready to face whatever came next. She just hoped she was strong enough to make the right choices when the time came. The storage facility sat on the edge of a small Nevada town that looked like it had been forgotten by time. Katie parked the truck behind the building while Dr. Brooks led them to unit number 47. Elena Torres had rented the space under a false name and paid 4 years in advance. Dr. Brooks opened the metal door with a key she wore on a chain around her neck. Inside the unit, Maya saw more strange artifacts than had been in her grandmother's entire shop. Crystal formations, metal objects, covered in symbols and devices that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie, filled the small space. Maya approached a large crystal formation in the center of the unit. The moment she came near it, the pendant around her neck began glowing brightly. The crystal formation responded by lighting up with the same blue energy. Maya could feel power flowing between the pendant and the larger crystal. Dr. Brooks explained that this was a communication array built by the architects. Elena had used it to receive messages from the evolved architect beings who still watched over their technology. Dr. Brooks activated the array, and strange symbols appeared in the blue light. Lyra translated some of the symbols for Maya. The message was a warning. From the architects, the terraforming technology was more dangerous than anyone had realized. It could not just change planets, it could change the fundamental nature of reality itself. Using it incorrectly could destroy entire star systems. Maya felt sick as she realized what this meant. The Zephyrians were not just threatening Earth, they were risking the destruction of everything. The architects had hidden their most powerful technology because they knew it was too dangerous for most species. To handle, Dr. Brooks activated another device that projected a holographic map of the southwest United States. Red dots marked the locations where Elena had hidden the remaining artifacts. The dots formed a pattern that pointed toward a location. Near Hoover Dam, Dr. Brooks said this was where the main architect vault was hidden as. They studied the map. Katie heard vehicles approaching outside. She looked through the window and saw black military trucks surrounding the storage facility. Human soldiers in advanced gear were taking positions around the building. Katie recognized the equipment as more advanced than anything the regular military used. Dr. Brooks said these were probably agents from the secret organization that had worked with Alina. Not all members of the organization agreed about what should be done with architect technology. Some believed it should be destroyed, while others wanted to use it to defend. Earth Lyra drew her weapon and prepared for a fight, she said. The human agents were just as dangerous as the Zephyrians because they did not understand what they were dealing with. Maya felt trapped between different groups, who all claimed to know what was best. The leader of the human agents called out through a speaker demanding that Maya surrender the pendant. He identified himself as Colonel Martin Stone and said he represented the interests of Earth. Maya did not trust his voice, which sounded cold and calculating. Dr. Brooks whispered that Colonel Stone had been trying to take control of the Guardian organization for years. He believed architect technology should be used to make humanity the dominant species in the galaxy. Stone was willing to risk everything to achieve that goal. Maya made a decision that surprised everyone. She activated the communication array and spoke directly to the architect beings through the crystal. The pendant grew warm as Maya asked the architects what they wanted her to do. The response came as images and feelings. Rather than words, Maya saw the history of the architects and understood why they had evolved beyond physical form. They had nearly destroyed themselves with their own technology before learning to transcend their material existence. The architects showed Maya that the terraforming system had a hidden function. It could not just change worlds, it could also repair damaged ecosystems and restore life to dead planets. The system was meant to heal, not destroy, but most species saw only its potential. As a weapon, Maya understood that she had to make a choice. She could give the technology to Colonel Stone, who would use it to conquer other worlds. She could let the Zephyrians take it to save their dying planet, or she could find a third option that no one else had considered. Outside the storage unit, Colonel Stone was losing patience. His soldiers began cutting through the metal walls with energy weapons. Maya could see sparks flying as the walls began to give way. Dr. Brooks grabbed several small artifacts, while Lyra prepared to fight. Maya touched the pendant and felt the power of the architects flowing through her. She realized that the genetic lock was not just about bloodline, it was about understanding the pendant would only work for someone who truly comprehended what the architects had tried to teach. Rebecca grabbed Maya's arm and asked what they were going to do. Maya looked at her cousin and saw fear, but also trust. Rebecca believed Maya would find a way to save everyone. Maya hoped her cousin was right. The soldiers broke through the wall and poured into the storage unit. Colonel Stone entered, wearing advanced armor that made him look more machine than human. His eyes were hidden behind a tactical visor, but Maya could feel his intense focus on the pendant. Colonel Stone demanded that Maya hand over all the architect artifacts. He said humanity needed the technology to defend itself against alien threats like the Zephyrians. Maya pointed out that using the terraforming system as a weapon would make humans just as bad as their enemies. Lyra stepped forward and offered to help Colonel Stone understand architect technology properly. She said the elves had studied it for centuries and knew how dangerous it could be. Stone rejected her offer and ordered his soldiers to take the artifacts by force. The battle inside the storage unit was brief, but intense. Lyra's energy weapon cut through human armor, while Dr. Brooks used modified firearms that fired some kind of plasma. Katie fought with military training and mechanical tools. Rebecca stayed close to Maya and tried to protect her cousin. During the fight, Maya noticed that the pendant was reacting to her emotions. When she felt angry, it pulsed with red light. When she felt scared, it dimmed. When she felt determined to protect her friends, it blazed with brilliant blue energy. Maya began to understand that the architects had designed their technology to respond to the user's intentions. Stone cornered Maya and demanded the pendant. Maya refused, and the crystal began glowing so brightly that everyone in the storage unit had to shield their eyes. The energy built up until Maya thought it might explode, then suddenly the light focused into a beam that struck Colonel Stone. Instead of harming him, the beam seemed to show Colonel Stone something that changed his expression. Maya could see understanding and horror fighting in his eyes. The architect technology had shown him the true consequences of using it as a weapon. Colonel Stone staggered backward and ordered his soldiers to stop fighting. Dar Brooks helped Colonel Stone to his feet and explained what had happened. The pendant had forced him to experience the memories of civilizations destroyed by terraforming technology. Colonel Stone now understood why the architects had hidden their most powerful creations. Maya felt the pendant pulse gently and realized the architects had been testing everyone who came in contact with their technology. Colonel Stone had failed the test by wanting to use it for conquest, but Maya had passed by wanting to use it for protection. Outside the storage unit, they could hear new sounds of battle. Zephyrian ships had found the location and were attacking Colonel Stone's forces. Maya looked through a hole in the wall and saw Admiral Stormwind leading blue-skinned soldiers against the human agents. Maya made another decision that surprised everyone. She walked outside the storage unit with the pendant glowing around her neck. Admiral Stormwind and Colonel Stone both stopped fighting when they saw her. Maya stood between the two forces and called for everyone to listen. Maya explained that the architect technology was not a prize to be won, but a responsibility to be shared. She offered to work with both humans and Zephyrians to use the terraforming system properly. Maya said they could heal damaged worlds instead of fighting over new ones to conquer. Admiral Storm laughed and said Maya was naive. The Zephyrian leader raised her weapon and prepared to take the pendant by force. Maya stood her ground and let the crystal respond to her determination to find a peaceful solution. The pendant blazed with light that was visible even in the bright desert sun. Maya felt the power of the architects flowing through her and understood that this was the moment everything would change. The next few seconds would determine the fate of multiple worlds and species. Looked at Admiral Stormwind and Colonel Stone and saw that both leaders were being affected by the pendant's energy. Their expressions were changing as they experienced visions of what their choices would lead to. Maya hoped the architect technology would help them understand what she had learned. The pendant pulsed one more time, and Maya felt a presence in her mind that was ancient and wise. The architects were ready to reveal the location of their vault, but only if Maya proved she understood the true purpose of their gift. Maya closed her eyes and prepared to make the most important decision of her life. Maya opened her eyes and saw that Admiral Stormwind and Colonel Stone were both staring at her with expressions of wonder and fear. The pendant had shown them visions of possible futures, and both leaders now understood the true power of architect technology. Maya felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. The pendant pulsed and projected a holographic map showing the exact location of the architect vault beneath Hoover Dam. Maya realized her grandmother, Alina, had been hiding the entrance for decades while working as a maintenance supervisor at the dam. Alina had literally been standing guard over humanity. Greatest secret. Admiral Stormwind lowered her weapon and spoke in a voice filled with new respect. She said the pendant had shown her visions of Zephyria, restored to health without destroying other worlds. The Zephyrian leader admitted that her people had been blinded by desperation and had not considered other options. Colonel Stone removed his helmet, and Maya saw that he was younger than she had expected. His eyes held a mixture of shame and determination. Stone said the visions had shown him the consequences of using terraforming technology as a weapon. Entire civilizations reduced to ash and empty worlds. Maya told both leaders that the architects had designed their technology to respond to the users' deepest intentions. The terraforming system would only work properly for someone who truly wanted to heal rather than destroy. Maya said she believed both humans and Zephyrians could learn to use it responsibly. Dar Brooks suggested they travel to Hoover Dam together to access the vault. She warned that the journey would be dangerous because other factions were also hunting for the architect technology. Rogue Elvish groups and human military units were converging on the same location. Lyra offered to contact her people and request backup. She said there were elves who believed in cooperation between species and would help protect the vault from those who wanted to misuse its contents. Maya agreed and asked Lyra to call for assistance. The unlikely alliance traveled toward Hoover Dam. In a convoy of vehicles, Katie drove the truck, carrying Maya, Rebecca, and Dr. Brooks, while Colonel Stone and Admiral Stormwind shared a military transport. Lyra scouted ahead, using advanced Elvish technology to watch for ambush sass. They approached the dam. Maya felt the pendant growing warmer. The crystal was responding. To proximity to the main vault, Maya could sense vast amounts of energy stored beneath the concrete structure. Her grandmother had spent decades so close to this power without anyone knowing. Dard Brooks guided them to a maintenance entrance that Elena Torres had used for years. Inside the dam, Maya saw that her grandmother had installed hidden panels and secret passages. Elena had essentially built a second facility inside the existing structure. The pendant led them deeper into the dam until they reached a chamber that should not have existed. According to the official blueprints, the walls were covered with architect symbols that glowed with soft blue light. Maya touched the central panel and felt the pendant connect with the vault system. Suddenly, the chamber filled with light, and Maya found herself face to face with an architect being. The entity appeared as a shifting form of pure energy that communicated through emotions and images rather than words. Maya felt overwhelmed by the ancient wisdom and sadness of the being. The architect showed Maya the history of their race and the mistakes they had made in developing terraforming technology. The architects had nearly destroyed the galaxy before learning to control their power. They had evolved beyond physical form, partly to prevent themselves from causing more destruction. Maya understood that the vault contained not just terraforming technology, but also the accumulated knowledge of the architects the beings had left behind. Everything they had learned about responsibility, power, and the consequences of choice. They wanted to help younger races avoid their mistakes. The architect asked Maya what she intended to do with their gift. Maya felt the presence of everyone in the chamber: Admiral Stormwind, Colonel Stone, Dr. Brooks, Katie, Rebecca, and Lyra. All of them were connected through the pendant and could hear her thoughts. Maya made her choice. She asked the architect technology to heal the damaged worlds instead of creating new ones. The terraforming system responded by showing images of Zephyria being restored to health, of Earth, ecosystems being repaired, and of dead worlds being brought back to life. Admiral Stormwind gasped as she saw her homeworld green and healthy again. The Zephyrian leader had not realized the technology could reverse damage instead of just starting over. Admiral Stormwind knelt before Maya and pledged her fleets to protecting the healing process. Colonel Stone saw visions of Earth being restored from pollution and environmental damage without displacing any existing life forms. Stone realized that conquest was unnecessary when the technology could make every world better than it had been before. The architect being expressed approval of Maya's decision. The ancient entity began transferring knowledge directly into her mind. Maya felt her understanding expanding as she learned how to operate the terraforming system safely. The process was overwhelming, but the pendant helped her absorb the information. Dor Brooks monitored the energy readings and announced that the system was coming online. The terraforming technology was beginning to spread healing energy to damaged worlds across the galaxy. Maya could feel the power flowing through the pendant and into the vault systems. Rebecca stepped forward and offered to help with the process. The pendant reacted to her presence, and Maya realized that her cousin could also interface with the architect technology. The Torres bloodline had been designed to work as a team, with multiple family members sharing the responsibility. Lyra received a message from her people reporting that the healing energy was being detected throughout Elvish space. Her commanders were amazed that the technology was repairing damage instead of causing it. Lyra said this would change everything about how different species viewed each other. Katie monitored the communication systems and reported that human governments around the world were detecting the energy changes. Many World leaders were panicking because they did not understand what was happening. Katie suggested they needed to make a public announcement. Maya agreed and used the architect communication systems to broadcast a message to Earth and the other worlds. The pendant amplified her voice so that everyone could hear her explain what was happening. Maya told them that the healing had begun, and that cooperation would make it work better. Stormwind contacted the Zephyrian fleet and ordered them to cease all hostile operations. The Admiral announced that Earth was now under Zephyrian protection, and that any attack on the planet would be considered an act of war against the Empire. The alien ships began forming defensive formations around Earth. Colonel Stone sent messages to human military commands explaining the situation and requesting cooperation. Many commanders were skeptical, but the visible effects of the healing technology convinced them to follow Stone's lead. Earth forces began working with Zephyrian ships to protect the terraforming operation. Over the following weeks, Maya learned to control the architect systems with increasing skill. The pendant remained connected to her, but she could now access the technology directly through neural interfaces. The healing process accelerated as Maya became more experienced. Maya learning to operate the biological aspects of the terraforming system. Her medical training helped her understand how to repair damaged ecosystems at the cellular level. The two cousins made an effective team, just as their grandmother Alina had hoped. Brooks became the chief scientist for the restoration project, documenting how the architect technology worked and training others to assist with the healing process. She established research centers on multiple worlds where scientists from different species could work together. Katie became Earth's first ambassador to the newly formed Galactic Restoration Council. Her practical approach and military background helped her negotiate agreements between species that had been enemies for centuries. Katie proved that humans could be effective diplomats when they focused on solving problems. Lyra served as the liaison between the Elvish government and the Restoration Project. She helped establish protocols for sharing architect knowledge safely among the different species. Lyra also worked with Maya to train other individuals who showed compatibility with the technology. Admiral Stormwind transformed from a military conqueror into a guardian of the healing process. The Zephyrian fleet became the primary protector of worlds undergoing restoration. Stormwind proved that even the most warlike species could change when given hope. Instead of desperation, 6 months after the vault was opened, Maya stood in her grandmother's cemetery placing a crystal flower on Alina Torres' grave. The flower was a gift from the architect beings who had revealed that Alina was descended from an ancient human architect hybrid. The Torres family had been chosen specifically to serve as bridges between species. Maya felt the pendant pulse gently against her chest, reminding her that her work was far from over. Hundreds of worlds were still being healed, and new challenges arose every day, but Maya no longer felt alone in carrying the responsibility. She had allies among multiple species and family members who shared her burden. The architect being appeared beside Maya in the cemetery, speaking through the pendant. The ancient entity expressed pride in how humanity had chosen to use their gift. Maya had proven that her species' greatest strength was not their ability to fight, but their capacity for unexpected compassion. Maya looked up at the sky where Zephyrian and human ships worked together to protect Earth. She thought about her grandmother, Alina, who had sacrificed a normal life to guard the pendant. Maya understood now that Alina had been preparing her for this moment from childhood. The pendant pulsed one final time, and Maya felt a message from the architects. The ancient beings were ready to move on to the next stage of their existence, knowing that their technology was in good hands. Maya touched the crystal and whispered a promise that she would never forget the lesson Alina had taught her. Maya Torres had inherited more than just an antique shop from her grandmother. She had inherited the future of multiple species and the responsibility to make sure that future was built on healing rather than conquest. Maya smiled and walked back toward her car, ready to continue the work that would define the rest of her life.